If you follow me on Twitter, you're probably aware that I've announced my intent to cover the individual KhordKitty, as I found his publicized antics to be equal parts enthralling and depraved. With the Kiwi Farms thread of over 170 pages, as well as the original poster writing out 8 full parts to keep everything organized and cataloged, the expansive history of Khord is one that, while strenuous to cover in a video, is required, as this information is truly something that should be available in a more accessible format. However, this will take some time for me to complete, as there is a lot to go through. Regardless of how long it'll take me to do so, that hasn't stopped Khord from attempting to defame and discredit me and the information against him for months now. Attempts we will soon be getting into, but that isn't the main reason I'm recording this video. That is actually due to 2 things. One of them is that I found myself involved in the saga's much more recent chain of events. And because of that involvement, new information to cover as well as insights on older information have arisen much to the point where it feels like another part got added onto the first 8. Along with that, I feel that due to my involvement, it will be better for me to speak my thoughts on the interactions I've had with Khord now rather than in the video discussing everything pertaining to him. Essentially, removing myself and my own personal bias from our encounters by venting it out in this separate piece. So with that explained, let's not waste any more time. Let's understand my interactions with Khord and why he's attempting to drag my name through the mud much before the coverage has even been released. So where did this situation between Khord and I begin? To put it simply, a mountain was made out of a molehill, something I most certainly wasn't prepared for at the time. In my video about BLFC 2021, I was covering an incident where Corvin Rai came out about the sexual assault he faced at the convention. In this section, I criticized the way he outworded a point in the video, a point Corvin later apologized for making so rashly. Here he makes a correlation between the number of rainbows a fursuit has and how likely they are to be sexually devious. The part where things got a bit iffy was in regards to the more rainbows a furry covers it themselves in, the more rapey they're likely to be. While I personally don't believe this statement was meant to be homophobic, I can understand how it would be perceived as that. Also, the fact that it's generally untrue. I mean, just look at these guys for example. Not one rainbow in sight, but track records so vile you'd wish you could chuck them to the end of one. But in regards to transphobia, in this 21 minute and 57 second video, I brought attention to Khord for a grand total of 10 seconds. And even then, I was vague with my mention of his collective misdeeds. So naturally, out of curiosity, some viewers had left comments asking what Khord had done. I would pin one of those comments and respond to it with what I could recall at the time. It's a rather heavy pile of information, but off the top of my head, I can recall incidents of him associating with the furry raiders and other suspicious furries, namely Growly, and taking his infant son to a baby fur party. On November 19th, 20 days after the initial upload, Khord would go on what can only be described, in my opinion, as legitimate lunacy. He'd respond to any comment referring to him with paragraphs of text proclaiming that he never took his child to a baby fur party, and that his mention of it was a joke. A lie he will repeat time and time again, as he would at least attempt to do so. You could go to this video and see the exchange for yourself, or at least you could if Khord didn't delete every comment he made prior to the tirade. He also took this time to claim that everything negative about him was false, not because of evidence he could provide to show it was all false, but because of the website where it was all compiled, Kiwi Farms. I'll get into my thoughts on this claim later. Instead, we'll move on to what he would try to do to get my attention, join my Discord server, and message me on Twitter. Not even hours after the tidal wave of comments, whose contents hold up about as much weight as filling up on bread, Khord would decide to join my Discord server. Upon doing so, he would enter a voice chat where my mods and other members were talking. Presumably, Khord was trying to talk to me, but instead would tell the voice chat about his grand plan to sue me. According to my mod team, something which would get him verbally torn a new one. I can't say for myself what went down that morning, because I was asleep while it all was happening. I woke up just minutes after the dust had settled and he was already banned. In just 10 minutes, he had already gotten removed from my server, while I was sleeping like a baby. Along with this, however, he would send me a direct message over Twitter. He would go on about how he was very disappointed that I was using my social media to spread misinformation about him, right before threatening to sue me for defamatory speech. This was sent to me the day before he joined my Discord server. I just didn't see it until I woke up the next day and saw he was already banned. I would respond with 2 messages. One highlighting the threat he made to sue me, and the other highlighting where he says he can't serve summons to someone that he doesn't know the name and address of. Clearly, he wouldn't be able to sue me given I'm actually well versed with online etiquette. It also helps not to publicize every asset of your life, Khord. But I digress. Following this was a rant about how I shouldn't have put his image aside that of an offending pedophile, one he had past contact with, mind you, and that I should edit him out of my video, or I would risk getting my supple cheeks slapped with legal. All during this, I had a looming thought. Seeing as Kiwi Farms was where this information was archived, why not just take it up with the thread's original poster? Clearly, if the information was false, you could go to the source and disprove it, right? But in his defense, I didn't know at the time that he had already tried, and in the process dug himself even further into a hole of falsehoods. Something that clearly explains why he attacks the credibility and brings up the deplorable side of the site when claiming his innocence, never actually giving evidence of the information they present being incorrect. Why he instead chose to come to me and threaten a lawsuit if I didn't remove his 10-second mention from a video where he only served as an example of an abhorrent individual. Well, that pales in comparison to what would soon come after, as he would then show an actual form of proof. A screenshot of his Facebook location history the day the convention he took his child to took place. You know, completely concrete proof that couldn't be altered at any time in the past 3 years. Following this, instead of disproving any further, he would instead use the safety of his kids as a bargaining chip. He would say that by me including him in my video, I was encouraging people to locate his address and confront him. Never mind him accusing me of lying and blaming me for being blocked by his former friends. This excuse specifically is what made me find Khord absolutely deplorable. Rather than showing proof that I was wrong, he would simply say that I was in the wrong for threatening the safety of his family. Now, hello there, Khord. As I know for an absolute fact that you're watching this. With your name in the title and how often you search for yourself online, how could you possibly not? Now, if you believe that at any point in time, my 10-second mention of you and my recollection of a minuscule portion of your misdeeds threatened your children more than you have through any combination of your actions, the words I have for you certainly aren't the most family-friendly. Regardless, Khord was still hanging on to the hope that I could be sued into silence. A threat so hollow that even a chronic double thinker such as myself found very little issue clowning around about the ordeal the following day. It was at this point that Coyote Lovely would join me in the merriment, sarcastically responding to Khord's replies while he ranted and raved at us and any bystanders who dared respond to the ordeal on their feeds. But the baseline was that thanks to my fellow YouTuber, I didn't have to keep much of an eye on Khord. I could focus on my own life and upcoming videos I had planned. Because the thing is, I hadn't planned to do a video on Khord just yet. At this point, I hardly knew anything concrete outside of the baby fur party ordeal he had found himself constantly trying to say didn't occur without providing proof that it didn't. It's here I want to recommend checking out Coyote Lovely's video talking about his own experiences with Khord, as I won't be getting too in-depth this video. This isn't the video where I dissect Khord's actions, at least not yet. This video is simply for me to give my thoughts on the matter, so I can cover his entire history without my own bias interfering. So with that clarified, later that night, Khord would decide to join Coyote Lovely's Discord server, to confront him in a similar manner to what he tried to do with me. Khord, however, didn't realize that I and Coyote's servers aren't too far from the same. Even though we aim to create as hospitable of a server as we can, there's nothing to keep you from getting teased and called out if you do something abhorrent.
It's really simple. I'm starting to date. I have 2 kids who have a well, I mean it's really simple as that. I'm trying to date, and guess what? No one's going to ever want to date me if they see a video that insinuates that I broke the law. I've led lots of my friends going like, "Oh my God, what did you do? What did you do?" It's like, I'm not sure. So it's making it impossible for me to date if there's this sort of stuff going around. It's really simple.
Are you trying to sue somebody
What?
because they made a video
What?
talking about you for presumably libel because it might impact your dating life?
Well, that's one
Actually,
ulterior
Jerry,
So I'm
motive.
lying because you can't.
Jerry, hold on a minute.
Wait the
Hold
fuck-
on a minute,
hold
Jerry.
the fuck up.
Jerry, it is not liable. I resent that. Libel's written, slander is spoken.
So it's
Sorry,
slander
I'm
because you
fucking
can't get your
retarded.
dick wet.
If it was written in the fucking tweet, it's libel,
Are you
bro.
serious?
We're not laughing about the fact that you want to get laid or you want companionship. We're laughing about the person who does the most damage to that possibility is you.
No, it's
and
not.
you
It's
are
Benji,
too-
because Benji actually put on
It's
something online that has made a lot of people think that I did a crime. Guess what? I did not do any fucking crime. And guess what? I will sue him if he wants to put something online that says that I have done a crime. It's really simple. If you put down something online that I have done a crime, guess what? I will sue you. That's exactly what's going to happen. So why do you keep talking over me when I'm actually trying to say a complete sentence?
Silly rabbit.
You listen at all? Any of you
kids.
listen at all to a single word that I'm saying? But you can't listen to a single word that I'm saying because you don't know how to listen. You don't know how to listen. You're actually talking over me when I'm saying something because you don't care that I'm going to sue Benji's ass.
I'm sure you are, mate.
What are you gonna get out of that?
You're gonna be
I'm
bankrupt.
going to do everything humanly possible to find Benji's information because I'm going to hire a private investigator. And when the private investigator does some research, maybe they're not going to come up
You
with
know what?
anything.
Hold on.
Maybe they
Hold
won't
on.
come up with anything. But whatever
Hold on,
happens,
guys. Hold on.
I
Please
am
stop.
talking
Please
over
stop.
you, and you will listen when I talk. It's really
I
simple.
have
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I have Benji's information.
How did that work out for you?
Hold on, Coyote. Let me do my
fucking
review. I have
All right, I unmuted him.
You are children. You're all children doing children's games, saying children's insults, talking about
Goo goo gaga, motherfucker.
Shut
I get
up.
a word in edgewise, please.
What?
sense.
Surely.
What the
I,
fuck is
I need to get a word in
happening?
edgewise.
Pathetic troll.
Fun.
All pathetic.
Yes, I was in that voice chat, and even though I hardly had to say a word that whole night, the display of Khord's anger here left me speechless, apart from 4 simple words. Oh my fucking god, indeed. I would talk more about this voice call and the other 2 that followed, but I aim to cover that more in depth when I actually get to that part of the timeline, as there is still so much I need to look through before I even think about getting to the more recent stuff. But speaking of recent stuff, let's talk about a more recent spat that led me to recording this technical part 0. The span of time between these 2 incidents has already been touched on by Coyote, so again, do check out that video. Because during this time, Khord pretty much focused on Coyote. The main reason this all began was just sort of thrown to the wayside in favor of clowning on Khord's absurdities whenever he decided to show up. That was until 6 months had passed. On May 15th of 2022, Khord decided to message me on Twitter once more. Benji, what date did I took my son to a party? Was it Friday, Saturday, or Sunday? Now this should have been a question he could easily answer himself if he had the information to prove the claim wrong. So I wasn't exactly sure why he decided to ask me this, telling him that he should instead just look up the archived information and make the correlation from there. He instead took this as me saying that I didn't know, as if I didn't already publicly announce that I was looking into his history. I didn't feel I was obligated to engage with his paragraphs of filler for the upteenth time, so I kindly told him in the nicest possible way to fuck off. That's when he decided I was full of bullshit for not telling him something that he could have looked up himself. And that's just me being generous here. Given how much time he's dedicated to defending that single point, you'd think that he'd at least have the information memorized forwards, backwards, and sideways, if not saved off somewhere. And along with this, Khord decided to pull current events into the exchange in the worst way possible. He would say, calling me names is not going to negate the fact that you are publicly using your platform to defame me, that you had no excuses for your disgusting decisions to promote propaganda created by somebody with the exact same politics as the person who shot up that supermarket in Buffalo, New York. You are a shame to the entire furry fandom, a shame to the LGBT community, and a promoter of a culture of cyberbullying, dishonesty, and incivility. You are a part of the absolute worst part of humanity. Shame on you. Granted, this is a moot point to begin with, as the evidence against Khord wasn't conjured up by Kiwi Farm specifically. It was based on archived posts and videos he posted himself. However, as it was 7 AM and my thought process isn't the best after 4 hours of sleep, I did notice that here he was comparing Joshua Moon, the owner of Kiwi Farms, to the shooter in Buffalo. Not myself. So assuming he was comparing me, a black queer, to a white supremacist that killed people due to their skin color, safe to say I was rather fucking offended. Words on the internet had finally gotten to me, so I thought, you know what, I'm done. I'm done coddling an impulsive man-child, so I would tweet soon after. I normally advocate against leaking DMs, but a certain reoccurring provocateur decided to reach out to me, and I can't say I felt more insulted in my time online. Khord, I'm sure you're not aware of this, but you probably shouldn't compare a black queer dude to that of a white supremacist when you don't get the information about your own publicized life spoon-fed to you. He would block me soon after this, and due to my original Twitter blocking policy, I would do the same soon after. but not before Khord would utilize an alternate account to try and defend himself on my tweet, responding to the comments of my followers and saying how he was standing up to a black queer bunny. And thanks to hindsight, I can see again the glaring flaw Khord highlights in every argument time and time again. He attributes Kiwi Farms, Joshua Moon, and the deplorable users of the site as the reasons the archived evidence can't be true. He has nothing whatsoever to refute the claims, so he instead attacks his detractors by fleeing them with the worst thing he can attach them to, no matter how far he has to stretch to do so. Now, you can think what you want about Kiwi Farms. You can throw any information from them to the side because their user base has a considerable number of transphobes, racists, and just pretty fucking weird people on the platform. That's your opinion, and I respect it if that's the case. But the reason I have for using Kiwi Farms myself is their advocacy for archival. The members who take notice of the absolute scum of our fandom and archive their horrid behaviors before they even get the chance to think about deleting it. I don't plan to associate with transphobes, and I surely don't plan on pulling an Uncle Ruckus anytime soon. If this site just so happens to be the place I can go to receive highly detailed and sourced information that could possibly be lost to time and let some sick fleabag walk without any social repercussion, then that's what I'll have to put up with. Because that raises another question that I'm pretty sure I know what his response to it will be. If this was all archived through a Twitter thread or a Tumblr blog, or any other site than Kiwi Farms, what would his defense be to these allegations? How would he disprove any of the behavior I plan to cover closely in the future? If his track record is anything to go by, I can't say I expect much else. But that time will arrive when it arrives. As there is a lot I have to touch upon, I wouldn't expect it to arrive anytime soon. This is a project that is much bigger than the Furry Valley one, and I don't plan on splitting it into multiple parts as I did with that previously. With this video, you will get everything at once. So please, be patient with me while I chip away at this iceberg, for this was only a snippet of what's to come. This is only a handful of the person Khord truly is, and why I personally find him to be an irredeemable egotist who should either take better care of his family, or find someone who will, while he spends hours typing paragraph upon paragraphs of filler. But that's my thoughts. Soon enough, you too will be informed on the kind of person KhordKitty was, is, and presumably will be, and come to your own conclusions. I will be putting out other content to keep things afloat here while I work on it, so in the meantime, stay safe out there.